Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here from Options and Play. Today, I am going to talk to you about one of my favorite tools that I use all the time, but specifically during earnings season, and that is the correlation calculator. Okay, and I have talked about correlations in the past. Usually, it revolves around sympathy trades, and just very quickly, sympathy trades are basically two stocks that are very similar, or maybe within a similar sector, similar businesses, right? That tend to move in tandem with one another. So, like the airlines, for example, the retailers, right? AAL, American Airlines, Delta, United, right? A lot of their businesses are going to be similar. So when Delta reports, odds are United and American probably move along with it, right? Or um, when you get some of like the retailers, right? So when Kohl's reports, J.C. Penney's or Macy's will move along with it, right? So those are what you would call sympathy trades, like trades that move off of another one, right? And at the end of the day, uh, you might be able to spot these on their own, right? Like you already might know that it makes sense. Like UAL, Delta, American Airlines, they're all very similar. But sometimes the relationships or the correlations aren't as easy to spot, and that's where this really cool free tool that I use all the time comes in handy. And this is just from the website Buy Upside. It's a free calculator, and it's great for finding levels of correlation between a couple stocks, right? So I'll just go over a couple, maybe two that you're familiar with. So let's say AMD and Nvidia, right? So most people are familiar with them. Maybe they don't realize how closely correlated they are, though. So we'll just go back over like the last like 6 or 7 months or so, right? So since August, right, through February this year, we'll see how closely correlated these two on a day-to-day basis. Now, a reading over 90 is high, and you can see that AMD and Nvidia um, basically they move that very high percentage move similarly on the same day. Okay, so a reading over 90 very high, and like the closer you get to one, that'd be perfectly in tandem. So that means that like cent for cent or percent for percent, they move with each other. So a reading over 90 is very, very high. Now, why this is interesting is, like I said before, for sympathy trades, right? So going back to the chart, so during earnings season, this happens a lot where you'll have one prominent name report during the week, right? So, for instance, like a recent one was Lam LRCX. And I mean, I'm familiar with AMAT. People might not be familiar with AMAT, but it's a name that's fairly closely correlated, right? And what's interesting is that AMAT didn't report the same week that Lamb does. So Lamb options, right? They're going to be priced for that earnings catalyst, whereas AMAT, the options aren't priced for that earnings catalyst because they won't report to the following week or the week after. Okay, so you get basically the benefit of that earnings release, but you're paying less for the options. Okay, so that's why I really like finding like those correlations. Now, what's also interesting is that it's good for hedging, right? So if maybe you're looking at like swing, right? So maybe you're sitting in like an AMD swing, and Nvidia reports next week, right? And you're wondering, well, is the Nvidia number going to have an impact on the on my AMD swing, right? So just hypothetically, well then you can use that correlation calculator, right, to figure out like, okay, how closely in tandem do these stocks move on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes maybe like they aren't correlated whatsoever. Maybe it's like a low, maybe it's like 50 or even lower than that. But for AMD and Nvidia, right, the correlation is very high, at least over the last 6 to 7 months. So 92, almost like a 93 correlation. So if you're sitting in that AMD swing, Nvidia is scheduled to report after the close, then maybe that's something where you want to either pick up some sort of hedge, or maybe like close it out, right? So it has a few utilities, and I find that it's very, very useful around earnings, like the correlation calculator, just because it lets you know like what stock may react to another stock, right? And if you want to design a trade around it, that's great. But also it can help in terms of hedging too. All right. So I just wanted to put that out there. So I'll just go back to it again. It's from the website Buy Upside, and it's called the correlation calculator. It's free. Check it out. I have it bookmarked. I use it all the time. And I feel like if you're not familiar with it, it's definitely something to research because it's definitely worth your while. All right. So if you like these videos and you're looking for more information on options trading or more option trade ideas, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options to play. Okay? Have a great night, and I will talk to you all soon.